Hey guys, welcome back to Texas Platinum. Thanks for tuning in as always. Today we have a special guest on, Ty Hudson of the Pig Trail Network. Definitely go subscribe to the Pig Trail Network. They have really good content around everything Arkansas Razorbacks related. I mean, Arkansas is good at everything right now. Baseball, basketball, football is getting a lot better with Pittman. So go get all the Arkansas content over there. They're one of the best in the business. So definitely check them out and hit the subscribe button for them. But yeah, today Ty Hudson came on to really look ahead to the Arkansas-Texas game here coming up on 9/11 in a couple months. It's getting closer, less than 100 days till kickoff now, and it's really starting to feel real with, recruiting opening up, and we're expecting full capacity. So it should be a lot of fun here in the next couple months. And, Texas-Arkansas, it's a historic game that has a lot of, background context to it, but it really doesn't happen often anymore. I mean, us young Longhorn fans and students don't really appreciate the rivalry like the older heads do. So Ty's gonna really get us caught up with Arkansas in terms of like their entire football team and then their outlook on the rivalry. So yeah, thanks a lot for joining us, Ty. And how you doing, my man?
Doing well, fellas. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. We really appreciate you hopping on. So
Sure.
I guess we can just get right into the meat of this video and just give me the let's just start point blank. Texas, Arkansas, obviously Southwest Conference running buddies for years and years. And then back in the 90s, Arkansas split for the SEC and Texas formed the Big 12. So Texas, definitely some hatred for Arkansas, but it's just kind of at this point it's dormant. But what does Arkansas view Texas? Because you always hear that Arkansas has a special place of hatred for Texas. What's your opinion on that? And you look a little bit younger, so you probably weren't there during the heyday of the rivalry.
No, yeah, I was born in '83, so I'm 37, and when I was little, yeah, we knew the upside down hook 'em horn. Like, yeah, burnt orange. It wasn't a color in the Crayola box in elementary school. And I went to I was in Fayetteville. I was right down the road. I went to Jefferson Elementary, Ramey Junior High, Fayetteville High. So there was a special place of hatred for Texas back then. But yeah, you hit the nail on the head and kind of took the words out of my mouth, actually. The younger folks, the younger guys and gals, you go to a student on campus in Fayetteville and ask them, hey, what do you think of the Longhorns? I don't know. I think we used to hate them or something. Like, it's not what it is. And that's natural. You haven't been a rival, or you haven't played each other on a regular basis or been in the same conference in almost, good Lord, 30 years. So but the old heads, the old guys, the OGs, the guys in their late 40s, in their 50s and up, they still hate Texas. It's just in their blood, and it's that. I always go back to the Arkansans. We've always kind of had that. We're looked down on, right? You're this little state. And back then, when you're in the Southwest Conference, you were the only out of state. You were the only program outside the state of Texas.
Mm-hmm.
And you had that chip on your shoulder, and it just brewed with Hog fans. And naturally, Arkansans are just feisty anyways. I swear it's nothing personal. I've heard of some really good stories actually of Hog fans and Texas fans tailgating together and having a blast, but when they buckle up, when they get it all lined up on the field, there's a special hatred that just comes up amongst fans. And you will see Hog Twitter. They'll carry it, when the game kicks off. I mean, you guys know, we talked about that before we started recording. Hog Twitter is just I don't know. Be careful is all I got to say. They'll turn anything into a heated debate and call you a few names along with it. But yeah, it's still there, but it's the older guys, like you said, the old heads that it really means something to them.
Right. And that feeling is definitely mutual from the Texas side as well. But cool. So Texas being in the Big 12, Aggies will harp on this every day, 24/7, but we don't play really in big stadiums. I mean, we don't really have another team in the Big 12 with over a capacity of 60,000 besides Oklahoma. We play them in Dallas. So what kind of atmosphere should Texas expect in Fayetteville? An SEC matchup at night now. They announced the time, 6 p.m., I believe, on ESPN. So I'm expecting a good atmosphere, hostile atmosphere, and we're having a new quarterback, new head coach. So it may be that may actually really affect Texas in a negative way. So, what do you expect out of the atmosphere in Fayetteville?
Well, since the last time Texas came to Fayetteville, which was in '04, Texas won that game. It was a good game, honestly. A little sloppy. I think Texas won that one 22-20, and that was, again, 2004. Since then, there's been a lot of renovations. The stadium then held, 72,000, I think, or 74. Now it's closer to 80. So they've got the north end zone. We've yet to see that thing completely full. This could be the game that does it, because with COVID, because of all the restrictions, because of all the draconian nonsense from the NCAA. I won't get political here, I swear. But now that's going to be lifted. We're going to be full capacity. And this is going to be the first football game we've had at full capacity, and it's Texas, right? Well, I mean, of course, Rice. We have Rice the week before, but I mean, it's Rice, but I expect it to be pretty electric, and probably, the tailgating. Look, the tailgating scene in Fayetteville has really stepped it up over the years. So you're probably going to have a few more liquored up individuals. Hopefully it doesn't get too out of hand, but I think it's going to be electric. It's going to be awesome. Like you said, in fact, I think the day you guys reached out, we found out that Arkansas and Texas was going to be on ESPN. We just didn't have a time. I think that was the day you guys had reached out. I remember us talking about it in the DMs a little bit, but so now you're adding all this, electricity to it. Like, wow, wait a minute. Arkansas is finally kind of getting back in the spotlight. Make no mistake about it. It's because of Texas. I mean, if it were anybody else outside of maybe Bama or A&M or someone, you're not going to have that opportunity on the main network on ESPN. But it's also cool to see that ESPN's still very well aware of the rivalry. SEC Network, like, they're already kind of mentioning it a little bit here and there. It's pretty cool to see that. Like, yeah, we mentioned earlier, we haven't been in conference together in a really long time, but it's still there, and it's noticeable from outsiders, really, when you think about it. But yeah, I think it's going to be a pretty crazy environment. I really do.
Yeah, there's a chance. I was looking at the slate that Saturday. There's a decent chance that we get College Game Day if the chips fall where they may, because Oregon, Ohio State's the other big game that day, and that's on Fox at 11. So I doubt Game Day goes out there. So, I mean, that would just getting
Totally
Game Day would even put like a cherry on top of the atmosphere there.
Oh
And
my gosh.
and if you were too young, kind of like me, go back and watch the 2004 Texas Arkansas game on YouTube, because it's on there, and you'll just see like a absolutely electric atmosphere. I don't think I've ever seen
Wasn't there a fight? I recently have been like looking around at YouTube for Texas Arkansas, and there something came up where maybe it was a previous game, but it was like some big fight. I think it was at DKR in Austin.
Surprises me. Nothing surprises me, especially Arkansas and Texas. And back then you weren't as far removed from when Arkansas left the Southwest Conference.
Right.
So it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, it should be some fireworks for sure on 9/11. But anyways, let's talk more like the actual football team, depth chart and expectations. So what are the strengths and weaknesses of the Arkansas team? I mean, Texas, just to kind of set the cupboard for you, Texas's weakness, if they ask you, it'll be linebackers and wide receivers, definitely, and then inexperienced offensive line. So with that in mind, what are Arkansas's strengths and weaknesses of the team? And I just kind of want to see how they would match with Texas's strengths and weaknesses.
Well, and I watched, obviously we don't know with your new head coach, like really what he's going to do on the offensive side of things, but we have a pretty good idea of what's going to happen at Texas. Looks like you guys are going to obviously have a new quarterback. I actually watched quite a bit of video on Casey Thompson. That kid kind of stands out. Like, I'm really impressed with him. And he also looks bigger than 6'1". I think they have him listed like 6'1", like 190 pounds or something. He carries himself like he's 6'3", moves around really well for a big guy too, or for a thicker looking quarterback anyways. But yeah, I watched his Colorado, the Alamo Bowl, actually, when I was prepping, because I'm prepping to do a upcoming, too early win-loss record for Arkansas. And so I was sitting there watching him, and he stands out, man. I mean, he looks like he can kind of make it up as he goes as soon as the pocket collapses around him. There was a play against Colorado where it looked like he was sacked, and he kind of he jukes the defender and then just tosses a bullet. Like, he stands out. But the inexperience, whoever your quarterback's going to be, I don't know, you guys obviously know more about it than I do. From what I understand, Casey Thompson probably going to be that guy. How well does he handle an Arkansas secondary that picked off, Ole Miss 6 times? Shut down Mississippi State offense. Their defense, until injuries and COVID caught up to them, their defense was actually pretty lights out, forcing turnovers and mistakes, and they were doing that all while not really sacking the quarterback. But I think the biggest, if I'm Arkansas, if I'm Barry Odom and Sam Pittman, I'm doing everything I can to gear up for that run game that Texas has. I'm really impressed with your running backs, and you've got a couple of them that are hosses. Arkansas's run defense, they just lost Jonathan Marshall, who was a big part of that front seven. He's out. You do have a strength in Morgan and Bumper Pool, one of those guys, Pool, who's an all-conference linebacker, Morgan, who's an All-American. You have Jalen Catalon at safety, who I'm telling you need to YouTube that kid. That guy is unreal. I think he could end up being the best safety we've had here. There's people that compare him to Atwater, who is an NFL Hall of Fame safety, played with the Broncos for a while. He is special, and we don't get those kind of guys here very often. In fact, I think we actually beat out UT for him when Chad Morris was here. UT was all over Catalan. I was really impressed that we were able to pull him out of Texas, and he's been special, man. So keep an eye out for him. Grant Morgan, just a workhorse. I don't know that he's anything special. He's definitely not a first-round draft pick linebacker, but he's just a workhorse. You ask him to do something, he does it, and he's pretty damn good at it, and Bumper Pool, but defensive line, there's just so many question marks. And I really, that's where I'm drawing the line if I'm Arkansas. Texas's ability to run, they're going to run all over Arkansas if they don't get something figured out up front. Offensively, yeah, Treylon Burks, probably a first-round draft pick, bigger body, 6'3". I think he's 220, 225. Unbelievable catch radius, great vertical leap, probably somewhere in the 4.4 department, could run every route that you put down in front of him. He can run the fade. He can run the goes and the deeps and the rubs, the slants, you name it. He is just an all-around specimen of a wide receiver. In fact, Mel Kiper just put him, I think, in the top 20 on his draft board in the first round. We just lost Mike Woods to Oklahoma. That was a pretty big loss for Arkansas. So now it's like, who's up? And is that going to be Trey Knox, the former 4-star out of Tennessee? Devion Warren, who ended up missing out on a big chunk of the year, or half the year last year because of a injury. I think it was a torn ACL, if I remember right. You've got Crawford, the Oklahoma transfer. There's a lot of question marks behind Burks, like who's going to step up. But their skill position, Traylon Smith, receiver, running backs, they're in really good shape. So, but the mismatch for me that's going to stand out is Texas's ability to run the football against Arkansas's run defense. We'll see if Arkansas can plug the gaps and get the job done. But we know UT is just stock full of 4- and 5-star talent up and down that roster. It's going to be a chore. There's no doubt about that. So, yeah, we'll see. There's a lot of question marks going into that game because you guys are going to get tested your first week. You're playing a pretty salty Louisiana Raging Cajuns week 1, if I remember correctly. And they're looked at as a possible top 25 football team this year. And then we've got Rice week 1. So, yeah, there's a lot leading up to this game, a lot of questions, and it's going to be fascinating to see it all play out in Fayetteville.
Yeah, I mean, Jalen Catalon's the one that got away, man. I mean, every time I see a highlight of him, it's just it hurts because there was the longest time he was a UT lock. That's what we thought. And then surely enough, Chad Morris kept chipping away and got him. And, man, he made a good decision, turns out.
I think, he knew he was going to get on the field quick. It's easier to get on the field, and that's a big sell at Arkansas. I mean, you're trying to recover and you're trying to rebuild, right? And that's been the case since, in my opinion, since Petrino was fired. They've just been – it's a constant, what the hell do we do? We're going to have to stack up here. We're going to have to find our guy. And that guy, you're going to sell to him. He's probably a starter by year 2. And that's a huge advantage. Whereas Texas, every position, you're chock full of talent. And these kids know that. These kids are aware. They're on social media. They're on the message boards. They know what's going on. They're smarter than we give them credit for. And I think that was part of it with Catalon. I'd heard he really loved the facilities here, but yeah, like Texas doesn't have great facilities. I mean, let's be real. So that was a big one. Yeah, Catalon was a big one. I think he was a two-sport star. I think baseball, his baseball was his other great sport. Some thought we had sold him on that. I don't know that was ever the case, but Arkansas baseball is just right now it's the cream of the crop, especially in the SEC. Maybe it did have something to do with it, but he has nothing to do with the baseball program, so I don't think that it did. But yeah, that was a good pickup for Arkansas. Catalon has worked out really well.
Yeah, he's definitely an NFL talent, and I actually went to the Arkansas Texas A&M game last year in Kyle Field because my brother went to school there, and I was so impressed with the receivers on Arkansas and really the schemes of the RPO game. Is Kendall Briles still the OC out there? I think y'all may have one of the best OC DC combos in the country. I mean, with Kendall Briles and Barry Odom, that's a really salty duo. And then you got Sam Pittman, the mouth head, and the offensive line background there to top it off. Y'all actually have a really good staff, which I think that's definitely going to favor y'all on 9/11 having. I think y'all may have the staff advantage there, but yeah. Anyways,
yeah. Hopefully that's the case. Year 2, or as I call it, year 1.5, because COVID just was such a mess to deal with last year. It's hard to take anything that happened too seriously. We know if COVID affected these teams, but a big reason why they got that combo is simply because Sam Pittman. I mean, he's the second lowest paid head coach in the SEC. And so he didn't care. I think he kind of had the same mindset that Brett Bielema did when he came here. He wanted to be able to pay his assistants and his coordinators. And I think that's what's happening. They just gave him an extension. I don't think it was too big of an extension, but they're going to, obviously if year 2 goes better, he's going to get an even bigger extension. If they can hold on to Kendall Briles and Barry Odom both for, going into year 3, that could be special. I hope that's the case, but Kendall Briles is a big name. Both of them are big names, and I think they both end up being head coaches here really soon.
Yeah, definitely. They're definitely very hot right now, and just like you said, if you can hang on to them for a few more years, that'd definitely be ideal. Let's continue to shift over to y'all's offensive side of the ball. Obviously, like Texas, y'all have a bit of a QB controversy right now. Could you kind of just go over that for the Horn fans out there that may not really know what to expect and kind of what the QB competition is looking like for y'all?
Unless something dramatic happens between now and the Texas game, and it could with Rice, you never know. You don't want to overlook anybody, but KJ Jefferson should be the starter. He's what year is this now? This is his 3rd year out of Mississippi. He was a 4-star, highly recruited quarterback. We saw him as a freshman, as a true freshman, didn't really look, his accuracy was an issue. You fast forward to last year, Franks goes down against before Missouri, and KJ had no idea he was starting until I think the way it played out was Friday, the day before he was told there was a possibility. But then going in, warming up against Mizzou, I mean, they showed it on TV. They show them walk up and talk to him, and he's like, oh, okay, I'm the guy now. And that's when from what I understand, that's when he found out he was for sure the starter, and he was lights out against Missouri, who was a salty defense last year. And that was on the road. I get it. It wasn't in front of 50, 60,000 people, but it's still a somewhat hostile environment, if you could say that about Mizzou last year at home. But he was pretty impressive. I think he had 300 maybe 30 total yards of offense, 4 touchdowns. Was really, the offense seemed to operate faster than when Felipe Franks was at the helm. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that KJ is a true dual threat quarterback, especially, I mean, he's a big dude too. I mean, he's kind of similar to Burks in terms of his size. He's like 6'3", 6'4", 235 pounds or so, but good arm. His deep ball placement it looked really good. And I went to 2 out of the 3 open springs that they had. And yeah, his second spring wasn't the greatest. None of the quarterbacks looked really good. And then you go to the actual red-white scrimmage. he was impressive. I mean, the offense, again, just clicking. I mean, it was bing, bang, boom, up and down the field, delivering beautiful strikes, one of which to, ironically, Mike Woods, who then the next day we find out he transfers to Oklahoma. But it just looked like if they get anywhere near close to what we saw against Missouri and what we've seen in his spring camp and in that red-white scrimmage, it could be a problem. He's a big dude, and he runs – he's deceptively fast. He's not a 4.4 guy, but I mean, he's got some, he can move. The guy behind him where the controversy comes from is Malik Hornsby, who is another highly rated 4-star quarterback. There's a relationship there between him and Kendall Briles. I think Kendall's actually been recruiting him since he was like in 9th grade. And there's a bit of a connection there. And I think a lot of people thought as soon as Hornsby gets here, he's the guy. And he just he's not taken that step. I think as a pure runner, sure, he's faster than KJ, but it looks to me like he struggles to get the offense in rhythm. Just what we saw in spring, and what I read in the media, it looked like he struggled to kind of keep things going at a particular pace. His throwing game needs a lot of work. I think he's still a little bit behind there. There's also the possibility he could be a gamer too. One of those guys just doesn't practice too well, and then he goes out in the game and does something unreal. Who knows? But I think it's gonna be something dramatic to change between now and the time they play Texas. I think you're gonna face up against KJ, which that's gonna be awesome, man. I mean, in front of I don't know how many people are gonna be there. I don't know. Again, capacity is close to 80,000. I don't know how many people are gonna be there, but that's good. It's going to be cool to watch. It's going to be cool to see him under the lights and against that Texas defense.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks for clearing that up. I know at least kind of from our perspective, it definitely sounded more of like a true battle, but you kind of lay it out as like kind of the young guy versus, a guy with much more experience that seems to have a pretty decent foothold over the position.
He should be the guy. And again, Malik has potential. I think they both have really high ceilings. It's just going to be about, going to have to be patient. You're not the guy this year. Don't bolt, don't leave, stick it out, try to, figure it out. But then again, if Kendall's not here after year 2 or year 3, then he may end up leaving, but I hope not. I think I think they both have high ceilings. And I'm curious to see how they both do. Obviously I want them both to do well because they're Razorbacks, but it's neat for the first time ever. I mean, our entire roster is full of dual threat quarterbacks. I don't know that we've ever had that. It's always been pocket passing style quarterbacks, for the most part, outside of maybe you go way back to like Matt Jones, who operated a different offense back then, more of an option style offense. But they both have high ceilings. I hope they're patient, remain coachable, and sky's the limit for those two.
Awesome. Well, let's talk a little bit about Sam Pittman, second year at Arkansas. Kind of go over the expectations and what y'all are, expecting for his next year here, kind of in terms of record and as well as just the appearance of the team. I mean, y'all had the record didn't seem to indicate the talent and the steps that y'all have taken as a program. So I'm just kind of curious if y'all are expecting that light bulb to really go off and the wins losses to reflect that, or just more of kind of a continued journey per se.
Well, they're trending in all the right places. I think Hog fans are real quick. Outside of Twitter, you can't take Hog Twitter too seriously. But most fans that I interact with and that I'm able to talk with and the people that I know, they get it. Like this is a rebuild, an ongoing rebuild. And it's just not easy to do in the SEC West. It's just not. And no offense to the Big 12, but I mean, you look at what's happened at places like Baylor, Texas Tech off and on, Oklahoma State, where these schools, there's a little bit more of a cushion there. Whereas even in the down years, some of these SEC schools are just ridiculously tough on top of the gauntlet that you have to deal with when you mix in the SEC East teams. And this year we added Georgia and Florida to our already insanely tough schedule. And of course, along with Bama, Mississippi State ended up being, a house built of cards. They weren't, Leach kind of fell apart there towards the middle of the year, and then towards the end, it obviously turned it around. He was able to turn it around a little bit. But Ole Miss, they're trending in a great direction. A lot of people think they should be preseason top 25, and they probably will be, according to the AP and coaches. But it's not an easy task here. And even if, I get it, people hate the SEC and think that we're kind of overhyped or that the conference is overhyped. By the way, Hog fans absolutely hate the SEC. So don't think like I'm speaking lovingly of this damn conference. We hate this conference. They give us referees like Mark Curls, who cost us the Auburn game. Go back and watch it. Proof is on the tape. It's ridiculous. But I hate this damn conference. I wish we could get out. I know we're going to touch on that later, but I kind of already answered that part. But it is a tough hill to climb at a school like Arkansas, where, look, you've got 3 million people in this state, right? I mean, it's slim pickings. So that's why we have to go to Texas and do what we can down there. And that's gotten tougher since A&M joined the SEC. You've already obviously got all the Big 12 schools down in that state, and the Oklahoma and Oklahoma State. LSU is in Texas all the time. So, but that's why we're there. That's why we're, our presence has to be known in those states, in Oklahoma and Missouri and Louisiana and the Mississippi schools in Tennessee. He's done a pretty good job of that. I mean, his first year, recruiting with COVID was outstanding. I mean, I think they were a unanimous top 25, or maybe it was 2 out of the 3 majors, 247 Rivals and ESPN. I think 2 out of the 3 they were top 25. I don't really pay much attention to ESPN recruiting. I don't think they know what they're talking about recruiting. I stick with 247 and Rivals, but he's done a good job in terms of what he's known to do, right? We know the dead period's lifted, so now the coaches are going to be able to actually get in the same room with these kids and talk with them, and that's going to be a huge advantage to Pittman. So we'll see how that turns out by February of 22. Then you look at the staff that he's built. He's already had to replace guys, and some would argue that he's done a really good job there. They had to replace Coach Stepp, their wide receiver coach, and if you look at what he brought in at the wide receiver position, it's insane. Then he goes out and finds this next guy who looks like he's going to do a pretty good job as well. So he's surrounded himself with, I think, a very high caliber staff. And that's so important when it comes to playing in this conference and playing with this difficult schedule. This year we have, again, an insanely tough schedule conference-wise, and then we got to play you guys. We got to play you in Fayetteville. So I think they've taken the right step in the right direction. As far as wins, like, I'm still trying to break down every team. In fact, like I said, I was going over Texas videos and notes a little bit today and kind of just started this week on some of our conference matchups. I've been looking at Georgia, and it's a tall order. But I would put them in the neighborhood of somewhere between 5 and 7 wins. That's where I would have them. Anything above that would be insane. I mean, it really would, especially with a new quarterback and what have you, and with the loss of Jonathan Marshall on the defensive line and Mike Wood's departure to Oklahoma. So if you're above that 5 to 7, if you're above 7 wins initially, if you're at 8 whatever wins, holy cow, then they're going to have to pay up. They're going to have to pay the man a lot of money, and you'll see how that affects the rest of the coaching staff. But yeah, I feel like they've taken the right step in the right direction. Is it something similar to what Petrino did year 1 to year 2? We'll see. Or Brett Bielema, even, there for a couple of years after year 1, you started to see them trend upwards. So it's again, tall order, but I think he's taking the right step in the right direction. You'll see it. You'll see the change, I think, from year 1 to year 2 on the field. The on the field product should be a lot better.
Yeah, that's funny that you touch so much on his staff. That is something that Texas fans have really been talking a lot about. Probably one of the big reasons that Herman kind of failed was he brought his old staff from Houston, which were a bunch of lower tier guys and not big time recruiters or really well known coaches. And it's not that they were bad coaches or anything, but I mean, when you surround yourself with a really talented staff like you guys are doing right now, that's a big deal. And Sark has been able to bring a lot of his, fellow coaches from Alabama and guys from around the country that he really respects. So we're hoping that, that generates a similar result to hopefully what you guys are ultimately going to have down the road. Now let's now touch on the SEC. I don't know about Myers, but that surprises me. Y'all, you said that y'all are not a fan of the conference, and would y'all at all, be interested in rejoining the Big 12? I know that we currently have 10 teams, so we'd probably need one more team to join with y'all, but I'd be thrilled to have Arkansas back in the mix. I think that would really kind of bring legitimacy to the Big 12 because to be completely honest, there's Texas, there's Oklahoma, and the other schools are notable and all, but at the same time, like a lot of people don't take the Big 12 seriously. And I think they should a little bit more because, I mean, we have some really respected offenses and the defenses aren't bad either. I mean, you see that in the bowl games and, the non-con games. Big 12 always seems to be pretty competitive, but people still crap on it anyway. Yeah. But yeah, would y'all have interest in that besides just you, but as a fan base, as a school, is that something that y'all might look to?
That's one of the great pillars of discussion in the state of Arkansas. It's, should we still be playing in Little Rock? Should Nolan Richardson have his name on the court? He got that. We're still in Little Rock. And should Arkansas, if the opportunity were to arrive, should they head back and kind of help reform the Big 12 and have that old Southwest Conference feel to it, which, by the way, still without A&M, it wouldn't be the same as I understand it from the OGs, from the old heads. But I personally, yes, am all about I would love to see them back in the Big 12 or in that, Southwest Conference in the Big 12, which is basically the Southwest Conference plus a couple of teams. Maybe you guys should drop West Virginia. I've never understood why the hell West Virginia is in the Big 12. Maybe
totally
you guys
agree.
It doesn't make sense. Maybe they should swap, but I know that it won't happen simply because of the revenue. The SEC, just the network, it's ridiculous. The payout before COVID was something like $45 million per school. I think the Big 12 isn't too super far behind that, but I think Big 10 network is second. Maybe Big 12 is right there with ACC. I'm not really sure, but that it would take a monumental shift in the SEC, either taking a huge step backwards and the Big 12 making a huge step forward in terms of the revenue. But let's say that were the case, right? Let's say that the SEC is going up in flames. It looks like a dumpster fire. I think a lot of fans would be up for it. It is again, it's one of the pillars of conversations here is should we? And you talk about the old school matchups. Geographically, it makes more sense.
Oh yeah.
The opportunity of playing Oklahoma and Oklahoma State and Texas every year, like that's awesome. Oklahoma State, because there's similarities. I know they're not a classic, they weren't doing like what Arkansas and Texas and A&M were doing in the Southwest Conference. Of course, they were in the Big 8, but still, like they're not one of those old school programs that were great, like we're talking about with what the Southwest Conference was able to do with A&M, Texas, and Arkansas. But it would still be fun because there's a lot of similarities between us and Oklahoma State right now. Actually, Oklahoma State has a huge advantage because they have been a lot better the last 10 years than Arkansas has in terms of continued success. But it'd be fun, man. TCU being able to have them every other year in Fayetteville and Texas Tech. I think that would be fun. The trip, where you're going. It's between here, Oklahoma, and Texas every year, right? When you got to travel instead of flying all the way to South Carolina or Florida down the swamp. And two, like I said, the rivalries, the matchups would just be so much more fun and entertaining. But a lot of SEC fans or a lot of Arkansas fans, as much as they hate the conference, they like the idea that we're in this conference. It's like, yeah, look at us. We're great. That's fine. But Arkansas is not great. That's what matters. Arkansas is not great. And don't get me wrong. The SEC chant was funny. It was fun to do when other teams would get triggered by it. It was funny. I enjoyed it. But now it's like, no, I don't do it. A lot of Hog fans don't do it. It's really become, especially with the Mark Curls incident with Auburn, there's been, you go all the way back to the Florida game. When was that? 2009. There's just this, we feel like the SEC just treats us like the redheaded stepchild, and we're kind of tired of it, and I don't believe in conspiracies. I'm not one of those tinfoil hat Alex Jones types, but I do think there's something like they just don't really give a damn about Arkansas, and you get that feeling a little bit. And Hog fans, again, we naturally, Arkansans naturally, even if they're not Hog fans, which makes up probably 0.5 of the population here, even they carry a chip on their shoulder, right? And when you mix in college athletics and the way the SEC has, you feel like they've treated you, you have this, I don't know, this just bad feelings towards this conference. Yeah, I hope they all lose in their regionals. I hope they all lose. I hope, very few of them make it to Omaha outside of Arkansas. I hope Bama crashes and burns this year. I hope Georgia and A&M are all hype. I hate this conference. I hate the teams in this conference. But at the same time, I recognize how good this conference is. You can't deny the talent. You can't deny the draft picks and how well they do. The staffs, the coaching pedigree in this state in this conference is ridiculous. You can't deny it. I could sit here and bash them. I do have an SEC sign here that a friend of mine got me at a yard sale. I told my wife, I'm going to burn it. I'm going to burn it. And I'm going to live stream it. Me smoking a cigar, putting my cigar out on this SEC logo. What does she do with it? She pins it to the wall. So I've got this, SEC sign. I don't have the heart to take it down because I know she put it up trying to rearrange the room and everything. But yeah, we're spitting venom towards this conference. And I do think because of that, there would be some natural interest. I think it's growing amongst Hog fans that, man, why are we here? Yeah, baseball, we're a baseball school. We're a track school. Basketball's on the up and up. We just made the Elite Eight. Why are we here? Why are we wasting our time here? This conference doesn't seem like they give a crap about us. Why are we here? And yet you hear from Big 12 fans. You're not the first Big 12 fans I've talked to on a YouTube channel. I hear this all the time. Like, man, I wish y'all would come over here. And I'm kind of like, yeah, I wish we would too. So yeah, I'm with you guys. And it's weird because you find yourself in this place, and I don't mean to carry on, but you find yourself in this place where like you cheer for the Big 12 because you want them to grow and become this competitor to the SEC so that maybe one day that could be a reality. I find myself doing that all the time. Like, I really kind of hope Oklahoma wins the national title this year. I know I shouldn't say this. You guys are a Texas YouTube channel, but I mean, let's be real. They have been in position to do that.
Oh yeah.
Oklahoma has. A part of you does that because you want to grow the Big 12 where you have this natural competitor in this marketplace where then maybe it could be a reality. I don't know, 5-10 years down the road where Arkansas could jump ship.
Yeah. I mean, that definitely is at least to Texas fans, that's an incredible breath of fresh air being that, one of our big rivals in Texas A&M, they seem to be almost an anti-Arkansas, mentality. They really like to boast and show off that SEC card to the point that, I mean, kind of curious what you think about the whole Texas A&M rivalry. Honestly, at the moment, it seems that we need it more than they need it technically, even though I would argue that both schools would greatly benefit from them playing the game again. But yeah, they really like to hang on to that SEC card. And I get it. If you're a program that doesn't have quite the historical clout that a University of Texas has, hell, even in Arkansas has, whatever you can get your hands on to be competitive, all to you. But yeah, something I never would have expected. Like I understand the whole financial situation with the SEC. I'm sure that brings you in a whole bunch of cash, but yeah, basically what I'm saying is that's really cool that y'all still look to the Big 12 in kind of a, not romantic way, but like an old times kind of thing instead of a forget this, burn the history like Texas A&M is continuing to do.
Yeah, again, I think it goes back to just that redheaded stepchild thing we have with the SEC, and there's some great memorable games between Arkansas and Texas. Obviously, like the '69 shootout. I mean, my gosh,
yeah,
what a historic game in Fayetteville. Of course, UT ended up winning that one, but so we're very nostalgic, I think, as a fan base, and I'm sure there's going to be some Hog fan that's going to watch us and be like, "What? The heck with the Big 12. What are you talking about?" But there's some good memories over there, and I think it would go over well with fans. again, there have to be some things that happen there for that to ever even be on the table. But I think it would be pretty cool, and I would be all for it.
Awesome.
Yeah, me too, man. That's like the dream scenario. Get Missouri, Arkansas, Nebraska, all back in the Big 12. I say back. Y'all were never in the Big 12, but you know what I mean.
Yeah,
that would be that'd be a beautiful regional historic conference with great rivalries built in. So
Even
yeah,
SMU, because they've been on the uptrend for a while. It'd be nice to see SMU be a competitive force in Dallas.
They definitely had their heyday in the Southwest Conference as well. But yeah, anyways, we'll shift now more toward back to the Arkansas game. So I already got my tickets. I paid an arm and a leg for them to be up in the upper deck, section 506, I believe. So I'm going with a couple Longhorn buddies, and I'm really excited. I've been to Fayetteville before, but never for an actual Arkansas game. So I'm really excited for that. And tell me, is there like a certain spot to be like the night before the game? Is the bar scene in Fayetteville good? And then also maybe the tailgating scene, is there a certain spot where to look towards as a visiting opponent? And then best food in Fayetteville, any good restaurants that you'd recommend?
Oh man. Well, the night before, obviously it's going to be Dixon Street. That's a saying around here is Dixon Street. It'll get you, just ask Baker Mayfield what he has to say about Dixon Street. But that is the place
Got
to
him
be.
in handcuffs.
Yeah, they sure did. They tackled him. Well, I tell you what, I'm surprised Arkansas didn't sign that cop as bad as we needed defenders or bad as we needed linebackers. But yeah, that's the place, man. Wright's Barbecue in it's technically Johnson, right there on Main Street, right down the road from Mall Avenue. You can't go wrong with Wright's. There's also Sassy's Barbecue. There's a couple of places as far as like where to eat. Tailgating it's expanded all the way past outside of Bud Walton. There's a pit there that's hard to get into as far as like you're gonna have to, I think you have to have a pass actually to even get in there. You'll go all the way down to Baum Stadium parking, and across the street there's tailgates everywhere up and down over there. It's gotten so much better in Fayetteville. The just the whole pregame scene in Fayetteville has gotten a lot better. But yeah, Dixon, again, I would probably recommend Wright's Barbecue to eat if you're, and look, you guys are Texas guys. I know you're all about the barbecue. So Wright's is a great place. If you can actually follow them on Twitter, and they, you can check out their menu. I know we're still a little ways away, but it's creeping up on you. Before you know it, it'll be here. But yeah, that would probably be the first place to go check out to eat. So there's a lot of barbecue up and down Fayetteville. And even if you venture into Springdale, actually where I live in Springdale, a lot of good Mexican restaurants. If you're in the mood for some salsa and chips, it's we've got it all here in NWA. Don't let the state fool you, right? It's not just barbecue. We do it all in NWA. So anything you're in the mood for, we have it.
Man, you're getting me hyped up, and yeah, I have family in Springdale as well, and we're actually staying in Roger, so that's as close as we could get. It's all booked up out there.
Wow.
They're all hyped. Wow. So yeah. So anyways, man, we'll definitely take you up on those recommendations. Right, barbecue, that's the place to be. So hyped.
I like it. Let's now kind of start to wrap this video up. Obviously, I'm sure you're going to have a preview video for this game well down the road, maybe even a couple. And of course we're in June right now, right at the beginning of it. So we're pretty early to this, but if you had to give like a way too early prediction, whether that's score based, whether that's kind of what kind of a game you're kind of thinking of expecting, what would it be and why?
Oh boy. There's so much newness with these two teams, right? I mean,
yep.
With you, it's going to be not only your staff, your offense, your defense is going to have a different identity. New quarterback. Arkansas, it's going to be a new quarterback, and there's some changes here and there on the defensive front. But mostly everything stays the same for Arkansas. But again, the new quarterback's a big deal. I mean, we're without Felipe Franks, who was obviously a leader. I mean, a silent leader, but nonetheless, he had a presence on the field. That's a tough one, and the more I watch of Texas, you guys have a running back. I swear he looks like he's already built for the NFL. You've got, I think, skill position wise, you guys are in really good shape. I think depending on how well your offensive line does, if it's improved up front, your run game is going to be a problem for Arkansas.
Do y'all not? Sorry to completely cut you off.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Do you not have a lot of what's y'all's defensive line look like? Because offensive line is a bit of a concern of ours as well as our receiver room. We have talent, but not a lot of
We don't know what they're gonna do as far as formation. We thought, we were thinking, well, they're gonna go back. They're gonna stick with the 3-4 front with the front seven.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you go back to the spring, they ran 4-3 defense. Like that was their base defense all spring. From what I understand, majority of spring camp, they ran a 4-3 front. You just lost Jonathan Marshall, who's now in the NFL, who's the only real standout you had up front. You still have Montiel Soli, who's a highly rated 4-star. He's year 3 now out of Georgia. We haven't really seen him take that next step. Dorian Gerald at your other DN spot, who's been dealing with injuries left and right. The guy cannot stay healthy, but he was a number 2 JUCO defensive end. This is a guy, when you see him play, and by the way, he was in both spring games that I watched, the red, white, and the spring scrimmage number 2. He was in the backfield 60-70% of the time. He's back there making plays. Of course, they can't sack the quarterback, but he was in KJ's face. It seemed like almost every other snap. They have high ceilings. They have the some of the star power, but these guys are just having a hard time, their high school game, and that's common, right? For your high school game to translate well at this level. That's not the easiest thing in the world to do. It's easy to be a standout in high school. It's something else entirely in Power 5 and SEC football. We just haven't seen it yet from the defensive line. I think there's still a shift. They got a couple of transfers up in the interior. I don't know a ton about either of those two right now, but this tells you how weak they are. If I'm being real, these two guys transfer in, one of them from Mizzou, who was under Barry Odom, and the other one, I forgot what school he's from. It's a Division II school, I believe. They're already looked at as your starters. You're on your interior defensive line. That ought to tell you everything you need to know about what's going on up front. Their defensive line is in trouble. Zach Williams out of Little Rock Central was highly recruited. We've not really seen him take that step. I think he's going into his senior or junior year at Arkansas. Yeah, that's where the biggest concern is. And for me, I've been talking about the depth at linebacker. I've pretty much created a little bumper sticker slogan with quality depth matters. And I take that from the linebacking core. Our linebackers outside of Bumper, Poole, and Morgan, you don't really have anyone behind those guys. Now you're looking at the defensive line. That could be an issue this year. So yeah, defensive line is there's some major questions. I'll just say that and who knows? You've got a great staff. Barry Odom is your defensive coordinator. If anybody can plug that hole, it's him,
Right.
So who better, right? But yeah, that's my biggest concern with this football team is that front seven, is that defensive line.
But going back to your early projection.
Yeah, I would probably take Texas by a slim margin. And I think right now Vegas, I think it's like 4, maybe it's 6 points, I think right now in Texas's favor. I'd say that's probably about right. Right now, a lot can happen. Again, I've got my magazines out, right, as you guys called. I've got all my homework. I've been doing it for the last several days. So some things could change. Right now, I would probably favor Texas, but there are some disadvantages. Again, you guys got a lot of new going on with that new staff, new quarterback. Your offensive line, I think you had mentioned. That's news to me. I didn't know you guys were concerned with your offensive line at all. Because I obviously haven't gotten that far in what little research I've done on UT. But there's a lot of newness there, and that kind of makes you wonder also coming into a hostile environment like Fayetteville can be. The other thing, too, is this game is absolutely huge for Sam Pittman. He needs that marquee win. He needs that to put everyone to bed with, right? Like everything's going to be okay. Uncle Sam's got it. We just beat UT, this team that probably ranked at that point. And I think they are going to be preseason top 25. I've got it. And they need that win because they didn't have it last year. You choked against LSU. You got screwed against Auburn. Alabama and Florida beat you with a wooden spoon. Georgia bent you over, and you didn't have any quality wins a year ago. And I'm not hating on the guy. I think he did a fabulous job with getting things turned around, considering who they had before in Chad Morris.
Right.
He needs it, and this game is it. And it's going to have this huge hype around it. It's going to be exciting. ESPN, like you guys mentioned, there's a possibility game day could be there. Yeah, so this could be it for him. And that's another thing I think that kind of swings in Arkansas's favor just a little bit. Sarkisian, it's year one. I get it. UT fans want to win, and they want to win now. And they're that caliber program where they ought to be winning, 11 games a year, right? If you want my opinion, they ought to be 11 to 12 a year. And that's the expectation UT fans have. And I get it. Sarkisian's going to have that. And this would be a good win on his belt as well to walk into an SEC school and get a dub. But I think it is bigger for Sam Pittman and the fans. So that, I think, kind of swings in Arkansas's favor a little bit. So, yeah, I do plan on having some videos. I'm probably going to do a couple of videos on this game because this is a big one. This is a big one for a lot of different reasons.
Yeah. Just to kind of round this question out, y'all's offense, would y'all expect like a high-scoring affair or more of a scrappy defensive battle? Or still too early? Because we don't even know you would expect with Sarkisian's offense that we'd be high scoring, but our spring game, there was not a lot of points put on the board. I'll tell you that right now. So, and I think y'all's spring game was kind of low scoring too.
Yeah, it was. It definitely was, especially after KJ was off the field. When KJ was off the field, it just felt like it stopped.
Yeah.
And they did do ones versus twos. I think they mixed it up a little bit. If I had to guess, it has that kind of 39 to 45 kind of feel to it.
Oh, wow. Okay.
For me, just because it's mostly because of Texas's ability to run the ball. I really like what you guys can do on the ground. Again, it's going to depend on where Texas is at on your up front on the offensive line. It could be low scoring with Barry Odom. If you give him the time, and we're prepping for Rice, whereas you guys are prepping again for Louisiana, who right. I think is a better matchup between Rice and Louisiana, the Raging Cajuns. So we might have a little bit of advantage there too. We don't have that kind of, but it also, you could look at it as a trap game because after that, you guys play Rice. So if I remember right, I think they're next on your schedule. So it could even just be a trap game for Arkansas because we turn around and who on earth do we play after that? We play, Georgia Southern. Never mind. For some reason, I thought we went right into A&M, but no, it's Georgia Southern and then A&M. But yeah, who knows? I think it probably is too early to say if it's going to be a high scoring or low scoring affair. Yeah, nothing would surprise me. I'll just say that it could even be a blowout. UT could walk in and just obliterate Sarkisian. I'm not going to lie. Like, I wanted him at Arkansas. I like Sarkisian a lot. That doesn't mean he's going to be successful at UT, but I think he is a great offensive mind. And I think you guys got a pretty darn good hire, if you want my opinion. But I also thought Charlie Strong was a great hire for you guys too. And that
same with Tom. Tom was the prodigal son.
Yeah, exactly.
Guy returns home. But so you never really know until a few years in.
Yeah, you don't.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right. Let me just give you my opinion on it. So, I don't think Texas starts off the year 2-0 at all. We're definitely going to lose those games.
We're going to split, I think. Maybe go 0-2. Hopefully,
I'm trying to decide what would be worse: losing to a Sun Belt team or losing to an SEC team, a lower, with all due respect, a lower SEC West team in recent years.
Yeah.
And just the optics, mainly from A&M and all the other SEC teams. But then losing to a Sun Belt team, which is really good. Louisiana is a very good team with Billy Napier. I don't know how they still have him, but I just can't see a world where just the Texas that we know, we lack consistency. We've lacked it for years. We can any given Saturday we can beat anybody. but we can also lose to TCU, Maryland, Cal, Berkeley, anybody, Kansas.
Yeah.
So
Kansas.
2-0 would be remarkable for me. Just, our expectations have dropped a little bit over the years. So, I mean, I'm just praying we can go. I think we'll split it, but yeah, I wouldn't even bet on Texas to win this game on the money line. I don't know what to expect. And that plays to it also being early. We're still a ways out, but yeah, man, this is a toss up of all toss ups in my opinion. So it's gonna be its own thing. The rivalry, all the other context to it. It's gonna be.
Oh man.
Yeah, who knows what's gonna happen? That's basically what I'm trying to get at. But all right, Ty. Before you go though, we're about to close this thing out. I gotta ask, man. Tell me about those Arkansas Razorbacks baseball team, man. It's y'all's to lose this year. It clearly is. There's a big Grand Canyon gap between y'all and the rest. I mean, Texas was ranked 2, I think, or ranked 3 right now.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I feel like we played y'all in the first week of the season and we got destroyed, but we weren't practicing then because of the Texas freeze and all that. So I'll put an asterisk on that. But either way, if we played again, I'm not confident. I'm hoping someone takes y'all out, but I just don't see it because we wouldn't play y'all till the end of the World Series. So it's definitely natty or bust, right? For Arkansas.
It is. I ran this poll actually on my Pig Trail Twitter. Would it be disappointing if they didn't win at all? It was overwhelmingly, yeah, no, this is disappointing if they don't get there. And look, I think it was Vanderbilt was the last team to go perfect in conference play. We didn't lose a series all year, which is, again, it's only happened twice. And I'm pretty sure the year Vanderbilt did it, they got eliminated in Omaha, if I remember right. It was either Omaha or they got knocked out of the Supers. So it's not a guarantee, but the way they played down in Texas, and I get it, I agree. I think there was a little bit of a disadvantage for you guys to be able to. I had heard that practicing wasn't the easiest thing because of the freeze that you guys had. I'm assuming that was a pretty big deal if they couldn't practice like they wanted to, but you got to imagine that interrupted it to some degree. But still, Arkansas, man, I knew something was up after that Texas, or after going down to Texas and winning all 3 of those. I was like, man, if they walk away 1-2, I'm okay with that. I fully expected this to be a rebuild year. I really did. And here they are. They didn't win a dadgum season or a series. I told my friends, and they always talk to me like I'm they think like I'm not the guru, but I'm the guy that knows the most about Arkansas baseball. And I'm not. It's like I've just recently started talking about it on my channel. And I had said to them at the beginning of the year, they asked me, hey, what's going to happen? I said, it's a rebuild year, man. Look at the starting pitching. We have no idea who our day 2 and day 3 guys are. We're not even entirely sure what our middle relief is going to look like. And along comes this closing pitcher by the name of Cops, who has 10 saves, 10 wins, and who is darn near unhittable. I mean, his cutter, it's unreal. And he has been huge. Without Cops, I still think they're good. I still think they're probably a top 8, top 5 caliber team, even without Cops, simply because of the rest of their bullpen and the high ceiling these guys have. But yeah, it's natty or bust. And it's about time. Dave Van Horn has been here. I mean, my gosh, I graduated high school in 2002. He got here in 03, 04. And he's come close. We were runner up. We lost to Oregon State a couple of years back. And then we went back to Omaha the next year and we got eliminated pretty quick. But he's long. It's long overdue. Arkansas baseball really is it's a top caliber baseball program in the SEC. And this is just so long overdue for them to finally get here and win one or win it all. So yeah, it is. It's natty or bust. Fans will not be happy even if they get to Omaha. And that's so hard to do, to get to Omaha. It's a big deal to get there. But it doesn't matter. You are overwhelmingly the favorite in this. You are Goliath and everyone else is David. And you don't want that. We all know how that story ended up. So we don't want to lose. And our heads are really big on Twitter. Oh my gosh. I've talked about that a couple times tonight. Arkansas, it's just crazy. So, and you add that into the Flames, it's going to be a disaster, on social media. So, but they're a good team, man. I mean, they really are. And I've watched a lot of college baseball this year, but I've watched most of all their SEC series, and it's like, man, who's beating these guys? Like, really, who's matching that batting order? What starting pitcher is gonna make it through the fourth inning, right? Who's gonna go through that batting order second or third time? They're just solid all the way around. Infield defense, their infield is phenomenal. Their outfielders are making plays. It's been really fun to watch, and it's nice because, you know, we're good at something, right? You know, everyone wants to be good at one of those three major sports. We are damn good at baseball
and basketball too. I mean, but that's a different topic, man. Y'all made a great hire, and y'all almost made it to the Final Four, and that was a lot of fun watching y'all. But yeah, I think this is definitely the year for Arkansas. I mean, and it's weird to say because we're the national 2 seed, I believe, and I just really am not that optimistic. Not because Texas is bad, because we're pretty good. We beat a lot of good teams, win a lot of series. They are. We got pitching, we got batting, but it's just Arkansas is a whole different level, man. And barring something catastrophic or, you know, it gets in their heads or something like that, it should be Arkansas walking away with
the last thing I'll say is they're in college, and I know you guys are probably way ahead of me on college baseball than I am. I don't know. What I've noticed over the years is that, man, regular season baseball and postseason college baseball are just two different worlds.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Anything can happen. It's like college basketball, March Madness. It's so matchup. You know, it's all about the matchup. Same thing can be said. Arkansas, who knows? They're about to play someone that's kind of a no-name. This could be a matchup nightmare. You know, we struggled with who is it? Southeast Missouri. I mean, those guys have come down here and been super competitive against Arkansas, and Arkansas is loaded up. If you follow college baseball recruiting, they are loaded up with talent. And you get these little teams that can come in, and all it takes is one guy to have a good game on that mound, and it could change the entire, you know, the entire projection of the game. So, but I agree. They really do. It looks pretty far away. Number one, Arkansas, and it's kind of like everybody else, but anything can happen. Who knows? It could be UT and Arkansas. Who knows? Wouldn't that be fascinating to watch?
We'd have to do another video probably.
Oh man. Yeah, for sure.
Man, yeah, here it's about to start this coming weekend, regionals, so it's going to be a lot of fun. But anyways, we'll wrap it up here. Thanks so much, Ty, for coming on. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Man, this was awesome. We might have to, you know, do more videos in the future, collab where we can, because this is great stuff. And definitely all of y'all go check out Pictrail Network on YouTube. They have a Twitter account as well, so go check that out and subscribe. There's a lot more of this on his channel, so go check him out. But and also subscribe to our channel, Texas Platinum, because we're on the push for 3K subscribers by the Arkansas game. We're looking kind of low on that expectation. We're kind of on. We need some more. We need an uptick in subscribers to hit that benchmark. So if you do that, we really appreciate it. And that wraps it up here. Ty, anything else before we go?
No, I just appreciate you guys having me on. Sorry, I'm a big mouth, and when you get me going, especially on the SEC and how much we hate this dadgum conference, I'll go all night. You know, we can make a whole other show about how much I despise this conference. But no, I really do appreciate you guys having me on. It's been a blast.
Awesome.
Yes, sir. Well, we appreciate all y'all watching, and as always, hook 'em.
You don't have to do that though, Ty.
Yeah, you don't have to
you want to say woo pig? You can do the pig call.
Woo pig suey. How about that?
There we go.